Carl and Damon here from Brrraaains A Head-Banging Life, gbhblofficial for short. And it's the big question, and it's a simple question. What is your favourite video game soundtrack? Now, of course, there are many. Narrowing it down to one is going to be very, very difficult. So rather than do that, we're going to spitball back and forth of some of our favourites, some of the game soundtracks that have complete music from beginning to end that just enhance the experience, that you can listen to, not play the game, and love just as much. That's a super important thing.
I want to go first because I want to beat you to it.
Beat me to it?
Yes.
Beat me to it? How could, go on.
Because I know I'm both going to say it at some point. Well, Banjo-Kazooie.
Okay, no, I wasn't going to say that.
Ooh.
Nope, because I would argue that the complete soundtrack to that is not brilliant beginning to end.
Oh, you don't think so? Well?
I think levels. I agree with you. Some levels have some great music, really, really do. Things like Mad Monster Mansion has some great soundtracks. The overall theme that exists inside Gruntilda's lair. Some of the underwater levels, but there are other ones that I don't really care for.
Yep.
Stuff like that, over-the-top game stuff. So I would argue that that's not... me personally.
Yeah.
If it's one of yours, that's totally fine.
Yeah, definitely.
No, I'm going to go with what is arguably my favourite video game soundtrack of all time. Maybe it's in my top 3 at least. So much so that I have it on vinyl. This is the Thomas Was Alone soundtrack. Side A and Side B. And it is the finest soundtrack in video games I've ever heard. That, when you play it, enhances the gaming experience beyond belief. But it's so fucking good, so strong, that I can listen to it on its own and love every single minute of it. 2 of the tracks on this are my alarm clocks. Because I love it so much that hearing it as an alarm clock gets me out of bed. Like, I never get bored of hearing it. One track particularly on it called Freedom, which is the last sort of piece of music from the main game, aside from the DLC, is so uplifting, so powerful, that it moves me to tears, man. Thomas Was Alone has one of the finest game soundtracks of modern days. I adore it. I love it. That's why that one's one of mine.
Again, as a game we talk about a lot, and I've not played it again, but I said I will do it again.
Correct this, please.
Yeah, because obviously I do want to feel your passion. You know,
I hope you do feel it, because I understand that not everybody will. I will stress this to other people. But when I talk about the soundtrack, I consider Thomas Was Alone. If you would have asked me top 10 games, Thomas Was Alone is in my top 10 games of all time because of how its story plays out. I never experienced a game that made me care so much about cubes and rectangles. They given more personality and life than 50-hour games. The puzzle system is so clever and so interesting, and of course the narrator, because the game plays out with narration, because of course these characters don't speak. It plays out with narration by Danny Wallace, who won a BAFTA for this narration. It's so strong. And of course, the wonderful soundtrack. Thomas Was Alone is incredible. Yeah. Which one of yours then?
It's going to be obviously a major franchise, but it's going to be Sonic. Yeah, I think at pretty much every single level, it's throughout the entire game. Obviously, classic game, classic music. Yeah, it's one of those ones where you can enjoy the game and the soundtrack at the same time.
Okay, yeah. What, all games? All of them, or a specific game? Narrow it down to a specific, because I want a favourite video game soundtrack.
Okay, so Sonic 2.
Yeah, it's the strongest one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the strongest one overall of all us, like the zone music and stuff like that. Okay. I'm now going to throw out another one. And unsurprisingly, I talk about this game all the fucking time and tell you how brilliant it is and how blown away by it was as well. But it should be noted that it has a soundtrack that is as good as the game, that helps enhance the experience. It's not my favourite because it's got its official theme song that plays once in it is actually really irritating. I don't like that. But all the actual music that exists in the game is stunning. And it is Little Inferno. Little Inferno soundtrack. I know, can you believe it's got an amazing soundtrack as well? From its cutesy stuff to its more upbeat stuff to its really ominous stuff to the fucking epic moments. If you played the game, you know what I'm talking about. There are 2 moments specifically that, well, no, 3. The tracks are up in the chimney. That one that plays, which is another one of my alarm clocks, because good God, is that incredible. But the other one, and the epicness of Open the Gate Operator, And the way that plays with the horns that blare for the gates opening is incredible. But my favourite being when Miss Nancy says goodbye. And obviously that's when Miss Nancy, spoilers, leaves in the rocket. And that incredible sweeping mix version of the other tracks put into one blew my mind. Blew my fucking mind. I listen to a Little Inferno soundtrack all the time on YouTube, just as a separate thing.
I hope it blows my mind when I get to it.
Even if it, even if it doesn't, I don't give a shit because
it's yours.
It's my, I love it like that. So that's one of my all-time favorites as well.
This one here, I've been thinking about it because it's difficult, but it's Shenmue.
Yeah, okay.
Obviously, the soundtrack of Shenmue is beautiful. It's lovely. It's beautiful.
Lovely ambience and stuff like that. Yeah.
But then, because I was also thinking, because obviously you can buy all the mixtapes and tapes, and obviously you can play them as you're playing too. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, I think the Shenmue opening credits and music, which plays every time you open your diary, it plays the tune in the background. It's just classic. When you hear that song, you know, if you know Shenmue, you know that song. So.
But is that the soundtrack overall? I mean.
Well, it plays, obviously, it's the opening credit soundtrack. It plays every time you open your diary. You can even buy the
Yeah, but what about the soundtrack overall? What about the music in the actual game? Because it's the soundtracks of the video game, not a specific piece of music. Shenmue has lots of nice ambient stuff, like as you're moving around. But then it's got these really, for me, jarring tones here and there, like...
We got past Tom.
Yeah, Tom's a good example. But then you could argue it kind of fits the game. I do like Shenmue's soundtrack. I don't think there's anything like, I do like it.
When you're in the town, obviously there is no really soundtrack. It's more of the ambience.
The ambience. I love the ambience.
Yeah.
I love that ambience. More like I would say the ambience sometimes is better than a lot of the music. Yeah. Who's the guy? Goro?
Yeah,
Harbour. The music that plays of him is, I find, obnoxious. Do you know what I mean? Like that's why I don't really. I guess I wouldn't.
Hey, bro.
But I'm not here to dispute your ones. Yeah. It's more what I think. The problem is obviously you don't know Thomas Was Alone or Little Inferno. No. Okay, I'm going to do another one I don't think you know either. Refunct soundtrack. Of course, Refunct was a game. You know it?
Nope.
Refunct was a game, maybe even 10 years old now, that you could complete within 2 to 3 minutes. In fact, the whole point of the game was to see how fast you could complete it. This super chilled out speeding game where the idea was just to run through this very area, turning all the blocks a certain colour, hitting switches until the game ends. It was genius. It was addictive. It was brilliant. There was a brief obsession where myself, Liam and Dan all were trying to best each other's times in it. I think Dan might have the win in that. I think he might have it done in like 2.5 minutes. Like proper that. This simple game that really doesn't have much to it has one of the finest soundtracks I've ever heard. So much so that I'm begging you, please put this out on vinyl so I can buy it. I've looked for it. It is not the case. Refunct soundtracks is a mix of electronica, ambient, uplifting, and story. The soundtrack tells a story that the game doesn't, which is incredible for me. Refunct soundtrack is, again, it's one I listen to all the time, just on its own when I'm working at my computer or something like that.
Again, it's nothing I heard of, but I will look into it.
I will try and think of another soundtrack in a minute that you have, like maybe one from a game you do actually know.
I mean, this one is good. I could go with some of the obvious ones. For example, so Mario. Obviously, there's many Mario games I could choose from, but I'm going to go for one which is not Mario, but it's Luigi's Mansion.
Oh, okay, cool.
Because the soundtrack is just. So I don't know what the word is. It's relaxing as you play it.
It's kooky. It's got kind of creepiness.
And obviously everyone loves the whole finding the music room and playing the music, trying out different sounds with the music. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah. Yeah, it's a good shout. Luigi Mansion's a good shout actually. We'll stick with Mario then. I'll say, although I wouldn't necessarily say it's my favourite, but Super Mario 64 probably the best music soundtrack overall. Like one, like I think. Yeah, it's definitely got to be up there. Yeah.
Well, all right, I'm going to give you one that you can relate to. The original Resident Evil. Specifically that one, and its ambient noises and music from that. I prefer the original Resident Evil soundtrack to the Resident Evil remake soundtracks more than anything else. From the tones of the different hallways, the music that plays in the different hallways, to the music that plays in the underground, to all of that, like the music that plays in the main hall. What? You're smiling about?
Sorry, I just when you said about the underground, yeah, I just had an image of it. Do you remember what we used to joke about with the bit with the sharks? That Barry was playing his violin or something. Do you remember that?
No.
No, we used to always joke about that because it was like a weird, like sort of like violin sort of sound. We used to always joke that Barry was hiding around the corner playing a violin or something.
Don't remember that at all. No. Kids' jokes, man. It sounds like a terrible joke.
It's a terrible joke, but we used to always laugh about it. But yeah.
But Resident Evil, yeah, definitely. Got any more?
Yeah, again, it's a bit of a. I had one now. Now I've just lost it.
Populous?
No, I mean, obviously the music of Populous is. It's again for me it's iconic.
Okay.
But it's I'm gonna go for Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time.
Okay. All right. Yes. See, I hear this a lot, right? And I've tried hard with Ocarina of Time to listen to the soundtrack outside because the biggest thing for me is listening to the music outside of the game, and I can't do it with Ocarina of Time. I think for starters, there's a lot of different music.
There is, yeah.
But a lot of it just doesn't really work for me. Do you know? Carry on what you're saying, yeah?
Specifically is Kakariko Village.
Okay.
Yeah, because that soundtrack in Kakariko Village...
It's very relaxing.
Yeah, it's relaxing, yeah.
Yeah, that's probably the more relaxing one, yeah.
But obviously, it's hard to, because obviously with Legend of Zelda, you can't really say, like, the songs you play in the Ocarina, because that's not really...
No, God, no.
No, yeah.
And not well, I mean, as well, it's literally just do. That's not music.
Yeah, but some of the tunes are nice, like, you know... The Epenor song is a nice tune, you know.
Okay.
But,
I mean, of the Zelda games, I weirdly would think, if I was to say which soundtrack would I play...
Majora's Mask for me.
Yeah, but the problem is a lot of that is Ocarina's. It's got some really nice songs in it. But again, it's wide. Wind Waker. It's got some strong stuff as well.
Yeah.
But none of that's in my favourite. Like, you know...
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to sit there and choose.
I'm genuinely surprised you haven't brought up Mass Effect.
The reason why is because I wanted to, but I don't want to be going for the obvious ones.
Fair enough, but if you like, but they're your favourite. It's not about obvious. It's about if they're your favourite. Are they your favourite? I'm going to go with an obvious one. That's one of my now. It's all coming flooding back to me. Again, with almost no bad music soundtrack wise, and that I can listen to outside it. Medieval. Medieval has a brilliant soundtrack.
Does it.
Some really cool, fun, gothic horror amusement that's toned by certain things. Sometimes it's a bit epic, sometimes it's cool. I'd say Medieval has a really, really good one.
Does it? Yeah. I'm sure we talked about before when we're doing a video about Medieval. Was the one with the village where all the people are taking over.
The Sleeping Village is a fantastic good example of a specific song in that. Spyro the Dragon. Spyro the Dragon.
Yeah.
Again, it's another one with really, really strong music. That really, really imaginative and used for different things. Yeah.
Yep. I literally just had another. Oh, I got it again. The one I forgot before. But for me was a classic, but Command and Conquer.
Okay.
You know, literally, all the weird music that plays.
Weird,
Some of them are really good. Even obviously the ending with not music at the end. Mm-hmm. You know, not GDI, not ending. But
no, I agree. I agree. Actually, I think Command & Conquer's got a really underrated soundtrack.
Yeah.
Some of that shit is really, really good, like peppy, thing. I wouldn't. It's not one I feel I can listen to outside because a lot of the time, it's got a lot of prompts in it and words and things like that. Some of it works. Like we've got the one where we're going to have to act. If blah 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 blah, and then
if you want to live in a different world,
and then you get that kicking into the tune. That's quite cool and stuff like that. But definitely, Command & Conquer's really, really good, really strong soundtrack. In fact, underrated one. For sure. See, I'm trying to avoid, again, similar to not avoid, because I don't, but like when I think like Silent Hill, I think, no, it's got moments, it's got this. Moments. Bioshock has moments. Mass Effect I brought up because I think Mass Effect overall has a really good soundtrack, but I don't necessarily wouldn't consider it my favourite.
I mean, I keep saying that in the back of my head, Gears of War, but then I can think of a few.
Yeah, I can't think of an overall soundtrack in that, so I couldn't really consider that. What about going back to the olden days, like really early days of music in games from like the Mega Drive and things like that. You already mentioned Sonic 2, which of course I agree with.
Panzer Saga?
No. Fuck those games, man.
No.
Well, I mean, do you? I mean, that's my opinion.
I just find that because I was trying to think of games with classic music, music that really stood in our minds.
Yeah, but did it stand out in your mind?
No.
Then don't bring it up. That's what I mean. I was leaning towards something. Go on, Jon.
Theme Park.
Park, really?
Yeah, the classic. It was
This is one of your favourite video game soundtracks, is it?
Classic one, yeah.
No,
it's in my top.
Right,
30.
You're getting off track from the original topic. The question is favourite video game soundtracks, and you throw at that. Is it really?
No, obviously not. It's just, I mean, I can't sit there and choose number 1 and number 2.
It's not, yeah, I mean, that's what I mean.
It's impossible.
That's why we kind of started the video off with the best ones, really, more than anything else. I'm going to also throw out another one I really, really liked. I think it's got a strong soundtrack almost completely. Tenchu Stealth Assassins is really, really good. Alongside that, Metal Gear Solid and Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty are excellent soundtracks. Again, music I would listen to outside of this. Maybe not that often, and maybe only select songs here and there, but definitely feel like there'd be plenty there for me. Got any more? Any more favourites? No, I think we've pretty much touched upon some of the best ones.
Yeah.
I'll end this video then with this one. Although it's not got an overall great soundtrack, it has these two games have some of my they both have my favourite theme songs. Love You to Bits and To the Moon. Those two games there, played both on mobile, have incredibly powerful themes. So I want to mention them as well, but they're not my favourite video game soundtracks because the overall body of work isn't necessarily something I always enjoy.
Yeah.
But yeah. There we go. What's some of your favourite video game soundtracks? Let us know in the comments.
Thank you very much for watching. If you liked what you saw, please help us out by giving us a thumbs up and hitting that subscribe button. If you really liked what you saw, consider donating to keep the website and channel running by buying us a coffee via our coffee page or picking up some merch from our Big Cartel store. You can check us out on gbhbl.com as well as via our social media, Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, as well as listen to our interviews via SoundCloud, Apple Music and Spotify. Just search for GBHBL. Games, horror and heavy metal. What else is life for?